Hello, everyone. Welcome to our online tech talk today. We're going to talk about Amazon Macie and introducing the new service for you guys. I am Himanshu Verma. I'm business development for AWS Security Services and responsible for data protection services. And I'm also joined today with Ryan Holland, who's our principal security specialist and our in-house Macie expert. What we would like customers to get out of today is obviously understand what are the key drivers for Macie. We've gotten tremendous feedback from customers, and we've taken that feedback and put that into the service. So we would like to share some of that and go into the features of Macie in detail, and also provide some example use cases, some common use cases where customers can apply Macie in their day-to-day usage. We'll go through the pricing and the availability of the service, and then I'll hand it over to Ryan for an interactive console walkthrough of the service and a demo. And we want to keep this very interactive, so please feel free to post questions throughout the session. And there will be time for additional Q&A in the end as well. Before I go into the features of Amazon Macie, just wanted to share what is some of the feedback that we've gotten from customers and also some of the key drivers behind the service. Number one is around the trend of productivity. As organizations are enabling their customers and their businesses to be more productive, they're continuing to generate growing volumes of data. And it has become increasingly difficult, expensive, and time-consuming for security teams to identify and monitor how their business-critical data is being shared and accessed. So that's one of the common themes that we've heard from customers, is the ability to get visibility into where their data set is. And obviously provide appropriate security posture around that. Secondly, with the growing regulatory compliance around the globe and some of the new data privacy regulations emerging with continuously changing requirements such as GDPR and most lately California Consumer Protection Act, CCPA, that has increased the challenge with additional requirements and expanded definitions of what is considered sensitive data. And usually the burden is on the customer to identify these and then put solutions in place. Now, traditional security tools that have been leveraged by customers generally require the customers themselves to take on the expense of monitoring data access policies, and then the complexity of developing and frequently updating custom data classifications. Those have been the common themes that we've heard from customers. And taking that into consideration is what one of the primary motivations for developing a service like Amazon Macie. So Amazon Macie is a fully managed data security and data privacy service that uses machine learning and pattern matching to discover and protect your sensitive data in AWS. And obviously, we wanted to do that at scale, and hence the architecture of Amazon Macie allows customers to leverage that scale and remove any complexity associated with performance or cost. So if you look at the key features of Macie, there are four main themes around that. The first and the primary function that Macie enables customers is to gain visibility and allow them to evaluate the security posture and the security policies around their bucket inventory or the data in AWS. This could be highlighting how many buckets they have, where all the data is, and what are some of the control security policies on that data. Once customers have visibility into where all the data is, then they can go ahead and prioritize and define based upon either their data regulation policies or their data governance policies, where and how much they want to inspect the data to discover the sensitive data in their data sets. This is where Macie allows customers to have inspection jobs, and within those inspection jobs, not only select the sources, but also define the scope of the inspections. Macie leverages a combination of built-in managed data identifiers, and we've provided the flexibility of custom data identifiers that then allows customers to highlight PII and PHI information in those data sets. We obviously wanted to allow customers to do this at scale. We've heard from customers that they would like to do this in a way where it's easy and simple. So the onboarding as well as the backend implementation of Macie allows customers to centrally manage the service at scale. When it comes to multiple accounts, customers can leverage built-in features such as AWS organization support. And then when it comes to performance and accuracy, Macie leverages a wide variety of built-in data identifiers, which have been scaled to support various different countries, various different regions, and what is typically considered personal identifiable information in those regions. Additionally, we've heard from customers to give them the ability to define their own custom data identifiers so that they can detect patterns which might be bespoke to their business or customized to their business. So that is another feature set that's available in Macie. And the final theme is around once customers have discovered the data and the findings are available, to be able to automate and take actions on that and apply some of their security policies on those findings accordingly. So Macie provides full detailed findings that are available for a limited time frame in the console and can also be exported or can be saved for reporting and auditing needs. Macie also provides a fully managed API interface through the management console that allows customers to then have step functions or Lambda functions and have integration with third-party tools so that they can automate their workflows around data privacy and data governance. So those are some of the key themes that Macie enables customers. Let's take a deeper dive into some of these key themes again. The first one around gaining visibility and the ability to evaluate their data sets. Amazon Macie gives you constant visibility of data security and data privacy of your data stored in Amazon S3. So Macie automatically and continually evaluates all your S3 buckets and alerts you to any unencrypted buckets, publicly accessible buckets, or buckets that are shared with accounts outside those you have defined in your Macie setup. Macie provides native multi-account support, and anytime additional new accounts are being added or additional buckets are being added to those accounts, Macie automatically and continually updates and enumerates this information as part of inventory evaluation. So the first detailed feature that you receive in the service is inventory evaluation, where you can have a high-level summary of the total number of buckets, storage size, and object count, etc., available in a dashboard. Additionally, there are control findings that can be leveraged to alert and notify anytime there are security policies being changed on these buckets. The second big theme is around discovering sensitive data. Macie allows customers to have an ongoing evaluation of their Amazon S3 environment and data. Once customers highlight and enumerate all the data sets and the buckets and the inventory, they can then go and select the target sources where they would like Macie have data inspection that can be performed. This can be done by creating and scheduling inspection jobs. Macie allows customers to define as many jobs as they desire. This can be typically done based upon their needs with regards to data policy or policy governance, and they can align those jobs with those requirements. We provided customers the ability to have both flexibility of defining these jobs based upon frequency, which can be either one-time inspection jobs or a recurring frequency such as daily, weekly, monthly, or to satisfy some of the use cases with regards to refined search. Customers also have the ability to take object criterias and then include or exclude them as part of the job definition. This gives customers full flexibility to define how much and where exactly they would like Macie to inspect the data for sensitive data discovery. So leveraging object criteria like tags or modified time or extension types and size, customers can use this for use cases and benefits such as they can define Macie to inspect objects which were created within a certain time frame, or objects of certain file types, or objects of certain size. Customers also have the ability to review all the jobs that are either under process or have completed, so they can review the status of all these jobs and then take actions on them as well. When it comes to onboarding and management, one of the key features that we've enabled in this service is to allow customers to easily scale the service across multiple AWS accounts. Macie supports both multi-account setup with up to 1,000 member accounts, so customers can use the features of delegation to set up multiple member accounts. Or if customers are leveraging one of the built-in features of AWS organizations that uses the master member architecture in AWS services, customers can scale this service very easily with a few clicks up to 5,000 accounts. Using AWS organizations, customers can leverage the Macie master architecture and create jobs on behalf of their members. A typical use case in this would be where if customers or organizations have centralized data governance and data policy teams or offices, they can then be the Macie master and apply some of these policies in the form of inspection jobs and report these findings to the respective teams. This can all be done with a few clicks in the console, and with the ease and simplicity of AWS Organizations integration, it eliminates the need of customers going into each account and enabling that service. So hence, it takes away the complexity and cost associated with maintaining the service across multiple accounts as well. And as these accounts continue to grow, they can automatically be added with a few clicks. So again, that allows very easy and simple management at scale. When we look at the sensitive data discovery, that is done with two broad capabilities. The first one is the built-in data identifiers that Macie has. Again, based on customer feedback, we've scaled these built-in data identifiers to identify the typical personal identifiable information or sensitive information across multiple different file types using built-in data identifiers. Macie uses machine learning and pattern matching and has included typical data identifiers to identify sensitive data across multiple regions. So when it comes to multiple countries where the names and addresses and contact information could be in different formats, or when it comes to multiple different privacy regulatory compliances, such as GDPR, PCI, HIPAA, or CCPA. We've eliminated the need for customers to maintain that ongoing list of data identifiers. and maintaining that, or continuously chasing the changing requirements for some of these compliances. So Macie provides a wide array of built-in data identifiers that can automatically identify information such as financial, which could be credit card numbers, bank account numbers, personal information such as names, addresses, contact, national IDs, such as passports, social security numbers, or driver licenses, healthcare and medical information. And then we've also heard from customers where they would like to identify, even in production environments, sometimes if their developer teams or DevOps teams are storing credentials and secrets. So that is another built-in data identifier that Macie provides out of the box. In addition to the built-in data identifiers, Macie also includes the flexibility for customers to define their own custom data types. Now, if customers have business needs where they're collecting either a subscriber ID or they're collecting a customer ID, some of these regulatory compliances like GDPR and PCI require that to be under the data governance and data policies to have the appropriate security policies around that. Macie allows customers to define these as custom data identifiers using regular expressions that can be defined for pattern match. We provide customers an interface where they can actually define these custom data identifiers per account, and based upon their needs, they can add several of these custom data identifiers, which can then be included as part of the scope of the inspection jobs. We further refine the search of these custom data identifiers by giving customers the ability to include keywords or ignore words that can improve the accuracy of these findings. When it comes to supported file formats, we have a wide array of file formats and storage formats that Macie supports. These are the file formats that Macie attempts to inspect. These range in the category of big data, so things like Avro and Parquet files, commonly used in AWS data stores, compression or archive files, commonly stored in S3 buckets, documents and text files, which are very common in AWS data stores as well. So this gives customers the ability to select those data stores, and Macie will then go ahead and start inspecting these file types. One of the key things to keep in mind here is that if there are files and objects which are of either extensions or types that are not supported by Macie, for instance, media files or image files, those are not what Macie will consider in the scope of inspection. So even though they might be in that particular bucket that is scheduled for inspection, Macie will ignore those files. So Macie will only go into the details of the supported file types and do a deep inspection and identify sensitive data in the supported file types only. Once the jobs are configured and the inspection is underway, all the findings are reported automatically in the console. They are short-lived in the console for a month, but there's a lot of detail that is included in these findings. These findings are referred to as classification findings. Customers can actually act on these findings and view them within the AWS console, and also can export them and store them for future usage. We've heard use cases from customers where they would like to either suppress certain findings. So we've actually given a lot of flexibility and extensibility when it comes to the user experience of handling these findings. Findings can be very easily categorized and filtered from a user experience standpoint, either by jobs that were run or executed, or by finding types, which are very easily identifiable based upon the built-in data identifiers or leveraging the custom data identifiers. So such as, financial, personal, or credential information, or the defined custom data identifiers. This allows customers to build in a very easy search queries on these findings, which can then be leveraged in their automated workflows or can be saved to either suppress or enumerate a certain type of finding based upon their policy needs. In addition to that, all these findings are also automatically reported as CloudWatch events. That allows customers to then easily integrate these into their alerting and notification tools. Another point to highlight here is that in addition to the classification findings, we also report policy findings at the bucket level. Those policy findings which alert and notify on the changes on the security posture of these buckets are automatically also reported into Security Hub, which is AWS's centralized security visibility tool. And finally, customers can take actions and automate some of the workflows on these findings as well. Most importantly, we allow customers to store and export their results with all the details as to the record information or where exactly were those findings reported when the inspections are run in their own defined S3 buckets, which can be encrypted as well. And as I mentioned earlier, all of the management interface is available through management APIs. That allows customers to then act on these findings and take actions on either the objects where the sensitive data was found or on the buckets where the sensitive data was located. This can be simplified further using Lambda functions that can act accordingly and automate the workflows to satisfy some of the data governance and data security policy needs. The management APIs also make it easy to integrate the service with other third-party tools or additional services within the AWS portfolio. We also do support CloudFormation, so if there are templates that need to be deployed at scale, that is something that can be accomplished using the management APIs as well. So that summarizes on a high level the key feature sets that are included in the new service. Let's take a look at some of the key use cases where Macie can be applied and how these features can be put into action. The first and the foremost use case that we see customers applying this is for assessing your data privacy and security. As one of the core features in Macie is inventory evaluation to highlight where all the data is, and then accordingly being able to notify when that data or when the security posture around that data is changing. Amazon Macie allows customers to do this across their entire Amazon S3 environment by generating actionable findings that can be used to quickly respond wherever needed. So Macie also gives customers the flexibility to not only identify sensitive data in Amazon S3, but they can actually use Amazon S3 by temporarily moving data into S3 from other data sources and acting on that as well. For example, customers can initiate Amazon RDS or Amazon Aurora snapshots to export data from these services to Amazon S3, where it can be evaluated for sensitive data using Macie. This allows customers to extract files from applications such as email, file share, or collaboration tools, and transfer to S3 for evaluation by Macie. Another use case where customers can use this is maintaining regulatory compliance. Again, we've heard from customers that maintaining some of the policies and the changing requirements of these regulatory compliances can be challenging. So that is one of the primary use cases that Macie can address for customers. Macie provides different options for scheduling your data analysis, such as one-time, daily, weekly, or monthly, which is allowed by using the flexibility of our sensitive data discovery jobs, and helps customers to maintain data privacy and compliance requirements. Macie also automatically sends all sensitive data discovery job outputs, including the findings, the detailed results, timestamps, historical records of all the scanned objects and buckets to a separate S3 bucket that can be configured by customers. So these data discovery detailed reports can then be used for in data privacy and protection audits and for long-term retention, hence making sure that customers are maintaining the regulatory compliance requirements. And finally, one of the other use case where we've heard from customers where they want to leverage Macie for is identifying sensitive data in large data migrations. So whether it's customers who are trying to move data from on-premises to the cloud, or they want to actually act on that data and perform either data governance or data hygiene from a security standpoint before that data is moved into a data lake, they can actually leverage Amazon Macie and Amazon S3 as a staging environment, have Amazon Macie discover sensitive data, apply some of the security control policies, such as encryption or resource tagging that needs to be applied, and then that data can be moved into its final store, whether it's a data lake or during a migration from on-premises to the cloud. So those are some of the key use cases where we see Macie can be very advantageous to our customers. The service availability of Macie is available in 17 AWS commercial regions globally. So out of the 24 commercial regions, or 24 total regions, 17 AWS commercial regions is where Macie is available. So it's a wide array. We've scaled that lately. And when it comes to supported services, Amazon S3 is our focused supported service. But as I mentioned earlier, there are ways where we can snapshot the data from other data sources into Amazon S3 so that Macie can perform sensitive data discovery on that data. So that's the details on the service availability. Next, let's take a look at Amazon Macie's pricing. This is one of the areas where we received a lot of feedback from customers, and we listened to our customers and made some major enhancements and changes with Amazon Macie pricing. First off, the pricing has been simplified to two pricing dimensions, which are very closely related to the value propositions that Macie brings in. The first one is inventory evaluation. This is based upon the total number of buckets that are in the account per month. And if customers are using multiple accounts and have multiple buckets, it takes into consideration the total number of buckets in that account per month. The inventory evaluation is the feature that also provides visibility and provides customers a high-level overview of their security control posture across all their bucket inventory and the bucket level policies. The second dimension of pricing is around sensitive data discovery, which is tied to the volume of data or the amount of data that is processed for the sensitive data discovery in a given month. So as customers can control and create jobs for inspection, and as Macie goes in and inspects these objects based upon the supported file types and the supported data objects, that is what is considered into the sensitive data discovery dimension. So those are the two pricing dimensions that are now in the Macie pricing. We also have a 30-day free trial for the service for all the accounts that customers can go and enable. The free trial includes 30 days of inventory evaluation at no charge. So customers have absolutely no cost for inventory evaluation. And up to 1 GB of sensitive data discovery is included at no charge. After the 30-day trial expires, there is a cost associated with both the inventory evaluation as well as sensitive data discovery. But we continue the 1 GB data processing at no cost even after the trial finishes. So up to 1 GB of data is processed at no cost each month. So that is a free tier that is available as a perpetual free tier for our customers. If we look into some of the cost elements, here's an example that is also available on our public website for Amazon Macie and on the pricing page reflected in the US region. The first dimension, that is inventory evaluation, is available, again, free of charge for the free trial. And after the free trial expires, it's a mere 10 US cents per S3 bucket per month. So even if customers have, up to 1,000 buckets, that is $100 a month for customers to gain visibility, have inventory evaluation feature available, and then also have security posture highlights and alerts available with regards to their S3 buckets. On the sensitive data discovery, we've actually reduced that pricing from Macie Classic to approximately 80 to 90%, depending upon the volume of the data. So we've now made that pricing to $1 per GB per month, up to 50 terabytes of data each month. Again, the first GB each month is included free of charge. And then after that, there are 3 volume tiers on the amount of data that is processed accumulatively in all the accounts. And it goes from $1 per GB per month all the way down to 25 cents per GB per month. This is highly attractive for customers to get started within the free trial, and then after that, control how much volume of data they want to process by using the sensitive data discovery jobs for inspection. Some of the other benefits that we provided with regards to visibility of pricing and controlling the pricing are things like a usage tab in the service that provides full visibility into which accounts are in the trial, which accounts are past trial, and also visibility into the cost estimation of what would be the approximate bill for the service with regards to both inventory evaluation as well as sensitive data discovery at any given point of time in the month. So customers can navigate to that and have full visibility for all the accounts where the service is enabled and how much will be the charge for the service. With that, I'm going to hand this over to Ryan, who can walk us through a live demo of the service and also walk us through the user experience in the AWS console for the new service.
All right, thank you, Himanshu, and I'll go ahead and start showing people what it looks like to get onboarded and what the new user experience is for Amazon Macie. So initially, to get started, as Himanshu mentioned, one of the things we've done is integrate directly with AWS organizations, which allows you to delegate an administrator account to manage Macie at scale across all of your accounts. If you're at the organizational master account, this is when you'll be able to delegate your account that you want to use as your delegated admin. Once you do that, then that account will have the ability to control and manage Macie and also view the settings of Macie across all of the accounts in your organization. And I'll show you just how easy it is to get going and get started and enable this for all of your accounts. Once you've delegated your admin, you'll now have the ability to see all of your accounts, and you can very quickly go ahead and add all of those accounts to enable Macie across your entire organization. In addition, we have an auto-enable functionality that allows you to make it so as new accounts join your organization, they're automatically added as member accounts and automatically have Macie enabled, which allows this master account to have visibility into the buckets that they have created in those accounts and how those buckets are managed. So what this lets you start off with is a dashboard view to see how some key controls and metrics are across all of the buckets in all of your accounts. We track three main things that we track. So whether or not the bucket's public, the encryption status on the buckets, and then how they're shared with other users, and whether or not those users are part of your organization or not. We also give you a high-level view of kind of your total storage, total object count, and total buckets. And again, this visibility is across all of the accounts that you have in your AWS organization. If any of these settings change, so if you were to make a bucket public, disable encryption policies on a bucket, or start sharing a bucket with an external party, and by shared, we mean if you're granting a user from another account access to the bucket that's different from the bucket owner, we consider that cross-account sharing. We'll look at the principal that you're giving access to and determine whether or not that user, that role, is a member of your organization or not. If it is, then we consider that it's shared internally. However, if you've given permission to someone who's not a member of your organization to your bucket, we would consider that shared externally. In this, we also track whether or not bucket replication is set up to an external account as well. So if those things change, you'll end up with policy findings that Macie mentioned. These will be sent to Security Hub. They're also sent out CloudWatch events. This allows you to determine through automation whether or not that was an expected event or if it's something you want to take action on, and you maybe send a ticket or even revert that change automatically. The next piece of visibility that you get is to be able to see all of those buckets that you have, again, across all of the different accounts, and understand from how those buckets are configured from an encryption standpoint, what their public access is, and we look at that by evaluating bucket policies, bucket ACLs, and also whether or not the block public access feature of S3 is enabled at both the account and the bucket level to determine the effective permission set. We also, again, track whether or not there's replication set up on the bucket and if it's replicated to an external account as well. From the object level, we give you visibility into how many of the objects are encrypted and what type of encryption is used, whether or not that encryption is the server-side encryption with S3 or if it's using server-side encryption with KMS. You also get an idea of the total size of the bucket. When we look at a total size, we also highlight the aggregate size of objects that are compressed. And the reason for that is as we go to do the discovery on these objects, we're going to uncompress those, and the amount of billing that is associated with it will be to the uncompressed size. So this gives you a hint as to how much larger than the reported total object size the amount of classification will be. From looking at these buckets is also how I can go and start and create a sensitive data discovery job. So I can create a job with one to as many buckets as I wish. And when I do that, I create a job. The first step of the create job wizard will be to just let you review your settings. If you want to make changes to those, you can do that at this time. Next, you'll define the scope and the type of scan that we're going to do. So we have two different types of options. So one is a one-time job, which is pretty self-explanatory. We will go and list all the objects in that bucket or buckets and perform sensitive data discovery on all of the supported objects that are within those buckets. The second type, which is what we see customers typically use for a lot of their buckets, is the schedule job. And this allows you to kind of set it and forget it. We will go and process all the objects that are present there at this moment. And then every day we'll get an update from S3. You can also make this update frequency longer if you wanted to do it on a weekly or monthly basis as well. But we will get the updated list of objects. And so every day we will go and process any new objects. So the existing objects that have already been processed won't be rescanned. We'll only look at objects that are new for that day. We also give you the ability to do a sampling depth. So sampling depth allows you to provide a percentage of objects that you want us to do discovery on. This can be useful if you wanted to spot check a bucket, for example, and just check a random set of objects within there. So based on the percentage you give us, we will randomly choose that percentage of objects across the buckets that you have chosen and include those for the sensitive data discovery. You also have additional ways of fine-tuning what is included or excluded. So you can create additional filters based on tags on the object, the date it was modified, file extension, or object size to either remove or include or exclude objects based on those requirements. The date modified can be very useful for customers that are migrating over from Macie Classic, as it allows you to not reprocess objects that you may have already had sensitive data discovery ran on in the existing previous product. The next step is to determine what, if any, custom data identifiers you want enabled. So as Himanshu mentioned, this was a key feature ask that we had from customers, was the ability to augment our managed data, sensitive data types with things that are unique to you, right? So customer identifiers, employee IDs, things that are not going to be applicable to most customers, but are interesting for your particular business. And you can create these in the console using regular expressions. When you do that, you give a name for the identifier, a description if you choose, and then you define the regular expression that would match the strings that you're looking for. You can further narrow that down again by including keywords. If you have a keyword that's defined, you can have up to 50. At least one of those must be within the defined match distance from the string that matches the regular expression in order for it to be considered a match. We also allow you here to test your regular expression with some sample data that you might have to ensure that the regular expressions that you've written are operating as you expect before you go and run a large job. You can create up to 100 custom data identifiers, and you can include up to 30 of them in an individual job. And there's no additional cost for leveraging the custom data identifiers. The next thing you'll do is you'll give this job a name, and we give it a name because we're going to make this job immutable as soon as we create it. The job will get an ARN, so it'll have an Amazon resource name, which you can also apply tags to do things like cost allocation down the road. But it'll also be useful when we look at the output and the reports from a compliance standpoint. So you cannot change this job or add or remove buckets from this particular job once it's been created. However, you can create new jobs from an existing job, and there's an unlimited number of jobs that you can create. So there's no quota on the number of jobs that can be created. The output of these jobs will again be findings. And the findings are going to be created every time we look at an object, and that object contains sensitive information. We give you several different ways to view it. So you can just view the full list of findings, but I tend to like looking at these more from a bucket level or by the finding types themselves. When you're looking at an individual bucket, you will also be able to see the number of findings by type. So our sensitive data findings, in this case, there's personal information, financial information, and then objects that contain multiple different categories. We also break this down by severity. If you click on any of these, it'll bring you to a narrower filtered list of just the findings that you've decided are interesting based on those filters. When you go further and look at these, we will show you all of the information we have on this object. So what bucket it was in, what path it was at, and what type it was, and then what we found. So in this case, for example, we found 29 credit cards, 20 addresses, and 32 names. So we never at any of our output include the text that we identified from the sensitive information standpoint. We don't want to add new sensitive data in the process of identifying sensitive data. We will only tell you the type and the number in the findings. We also give you more information that's about that bucket, so the resource that was affected, so what type of encryption policy is on the bucket, whether or not it was public, and then the same thing at the object level as well. And the reason for that is this allows this information, which is sent to CloudWatch events, to be responded to in an automated fashion using things like Lambda or step functions. For example, if I had an object that was not encrypted and it had sensitive data, or that was maybe publicly accessible, I could have an automated task that goes and remediates that or opens a ticket to the owner in order to do some remediation. I do want to call out there's a second set of output. That's our detailed result output. This is a superset of what we find here in the findings. So for objects that have sensitive information, they generate these findings. And for those that also have sensitive information, when the detailed result, in addition to the information that you see here, we also include the location of where we found that in the object. So the location will depend on the type of file type of the data. For things like CSV or text files, we will give you the line number of where that data was found. For big data formats like Avro or Parquet, you'll get the record number, and for PDFs, you'll get the page number. This makes it a lot easier to go and identify what was found within those objects. Again, those are written out to an S3 bucket that you own, and also provides long-term retention for these findings. And also from a compliance use case, we also include in the detailed result output a record of every object that we attempted and did not find sensitive information in. So again, just from a summary, you'll get a finding only if there was sensitive data in an object, but the detailed results will include a record that shows that we did process an object and if it did not contain sensitive information, we say as much. So it's important to make sure you set up that repository before you start running a lot of your jobs. In order to do that, you'll need to provide an S3 bucket. You can provide an additional prefix on that if you choose. And then we also require a customer managed KMS key to write this data as well. Once you start using the service, also you'll have the ability to track the usage as the master or the delegated administrator of the service, and be able to see how the usage is being spent across all of your different accounts, as well as which accounts are on free trial. So we have a default service quota of 5 terabytes per account. In the self-service AWS quota tool, you can raise that to 25 terabytes by yourself, and you would just open a support request if you'd like to go above that. As was mentioned in the presentation, every account, when you turn on the service, does get 30 days of the bucket inventory included at no cost. The sensitive data discovery is not part of the free trial, but you do give you your first 1 gigabyte of sensitive data discovery per account included as well every month. But every account gets the first 30 days of the bucket inventory and the evaluation and monitoring for the policy level findings free for the first 30 days. All right, and that wraps up our demo for today. I do want to let everyone know, you can go ahead and quickly get started as I showed by starting your free trial of Amazon Macie. And also at this time, we will open the floor to any questions that may be coming in.